Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story is titled, Sister-in-law Feels Entitled to My Bingo Winnings. Alright, so this might seem a bit odd, but I've got a story for you guys about my sister-in-law, Deb. Now, Deb and I have had a relationship that could be described as, well, complicated. She's been a part of my life since I started dating my wife over 10 years ago. Being the elder sister of my wife, Lucy, Deb's always had a protective streak. From the get-go, she's always kept an eye on me, suspicious of every move I made around Lucy. Despite that, over time, we managed to find some common ground in the least expected of places. Bingo. Yeah, bingo. I never thought I'd be one of those people who played it regularly, but life has a way of surprising you. Turns out, Deb is a bingo fanatic. I was skeptical at first, but I accompanied her to a session one night and found myself unexpectedly enjoying the thrill of it. Plus, it seemed to bring us closer. We even started a tradition of splitting any winnings we made, irrespective of who actually won. A bit about our winnings. There were a few times before we had smaller wins. The largest being £200, but even then, we'd always split the winnings 50-50, no questions asked. There was an unspoken agreement, a little tradition that had blossomed between us. Those wins were fun moments, times where we celebrated together and you could feel the bond between us strengthen. And Lucy, my wife, was thrilled about this. To see her husband and her sister bonding over something as simple as bingo, she loved it. The smile on her face when we would come back from our games, laughing and joking about the near misses and lucky calls was worth every penny we had ever won. It was an unusual bonding experience, but it worked for us. Our bingo nights were about more than just the game or the winnings. It was a time for family, a time that brought us closer, and now it feels like it's on the verge of being lost over this one big win. So, about 2 weeks ago, our relationship hit a new low. Deb, as always, was set to go for bingo night on Thursday, but then she cancelled at the last minute, saying she had a work emergency. I was a bit disappointed, but I thought, what the heck, I'll go anyway. Now for the plot twist. I won. I won the biggest pot they'd had in a while. We're talking about a few £1,000s here. I was thrilled. I called Deb later thinking she'd be excited for me, but to my shock, she wasn't. She was quiet for a moment before she jokingly said, "We're splitting it, right?" Her question caught me off guard. She wasn't there that night. She didn't buy a ticket. She didn't play, so why would she expect a share? I was a bit taken aback, but decided to deal with it later and kind of laughed it off and awkwardly said, "Right, I've got some bits to do. We'll talk later." Finally, last night I managed to have a proper conversation with Lucy about the whole debacle. We sat down and I asked her genuinely if she thought I should split the money with Deb. After a long pause, she shook her head. She said that she loved her sister, but she agreed that Deb wasn't right in expecting a share this time. She hadn't been there, hadn't participated, and it wasn't fair for her to claim the winnings. Despite the support, I can't help but feel a little conflicted. I mean, sure, Deb wasn't there that night, but she's been my partner in this for years. Without her, I might not even have started playing bingo. Without her, there wouldn't have been any wins to share in the past. What do you think? Should I stand my ground, keep the winnings, or should I split it to maintain the tradition and hopefully mend the bridge that's been burnt? I would appreciate any advice or insights. And I know this isn't an am I the arsehole, but I'd say not the arsehole in this situation. I mean, simply she wasn't there, and I've done these kind of things with my friends before, like we've put bets on things, but we do it together. So we put, like, let's say a dog race, for example. We both bet on a different dog, but we say afterwards, if either our dogs win, let's split the money kind of thing. So you got a double chance. And if she's not there, you're not getting that second chance at winning. So it kind of null and voids it. In the end, though, it's difficult because I wouldn't, if I was like in her position, there's no way I'd approach you and ask that kind of question. It just wouldn't be right. But I got a feeling if you wasn't to do it, things could escalate, potentially damage the relationship. Not that I'm saying that you should do that. I'm just thinking, with that kind of attitude, I think it will damage things. But A couple of the commenters says, wow, your sister-in-law sounds pretty entitled to expect a share when she didn't even participate in the game. Stick to your guns, mate. Another commenter says, in all fairness, I think traditions can be amended based on circumstances. Deb wasn't present this time, so I believe you were justified in keeping the winnings. Another says, as someone who's a regular at bingo games, I can say this, you win some, you lose some, and sometimes you don't even get to play. Deb missed out, and it's not your fault. Another commenter says, tradition shouldn't be at the expense of fairness. She's acting pretty entitled to demand a share of the winnings she didn't contribute to. Stand your ground. Another commenter says, it's a tricky situation. Family bonds can be strained by such disputes. Perhaps consider talking it out with her again, or even compromise if you think it's worth maintaining peace. And a final comment says, I can understand your predicament, but consider this. Is the money worth more than the relationship you've built over the years with Deb? I know she wasn't there that night, but if you've always split the winnings, maybe it's worth it to maintain the peace. Sometimes it's not about who's right or wrong, but about what's best for the family in the long run. Opie comes back into it and says, after a few days of mulling over the situation, I finally decided to confront Deb directly. I felt a pit in my stomach as I dialed her number. It rang a few times before she picked up. Deb, I began, we need to talk about this bingo situation. Do you really think you're entitled to half the winnings? There was a moment of silence on the other end. I could almost hear her preparing her defense. Then she spoke. She sounded almost slightly aggressive, if that makes sense. Yes, I do. We've always shared the winnings, haven't we? Why should this time be any different? I said, but Deb, you weren't there that night. You didn't buy the ticket. You didn't play the game. Can you really claim the winnings? I would have been there if I could. You know that. She shot back, and she seemed to be getting angry this time. Work emergencies happen, and if the roles were reversed, if you were the one absent, I would have shared my winnings with you. That's what our tradition means to me. Are you really going to say that you were not sharing? What has Lucy said about this? Sure, we had always shared our winnings, but we'd always played together too. I couldn't help but feel like her absence had broken our tradition. Yet her belief that she would have shared had the roles been reversed did give me pause. I then mentioned how Lucy agrees with me, and as soon as I said it, it felt like a huge mistake. I heard her mumble that you were fucking kidding me. Her getting angry kind of felt like it was the beginning of the end of our relationship anyway, so I was thinking of doubling down and not bothering to worry about it anymore. But at the same time, I may have just damaged the relationship between the sisters, and if a couple of grand solves all these issues, it's got to be a good thing, right? That was the mindset then, but a day or so later, I found out Deb had called Lucy and had been saying all sorts of things, getting their mum involved, who hopefully she won't see this. It's a right pain in my arsehole. Piles. She's the piles of my ass. Oh dear. I was there for the conversation, but I couldn't hear any of it. I could only hear one side of the conversation. But Lucy's face said it all. She always struggled with conflict, especially her family. After she hung up, she told me about the call. Deb had tried to manipulate her into persuading me to give her the money. She used their sisterly bond as a weapon, trying to guilt Lucy into siding with her. As if that wasn't enough, later in the evening, Lucy received another call, this time from their mother. Her mum had always been the peacemaker. I use peacemaker lightly. That's what they call her. I think she's trouble in the family. But this time, it seemed like she was siding with Deb. She kept saying things like, it's only fair, and your sisters, don't let money come between you. This made the situation even more complicated. It was no longer just about the winnings, it was becoming a family issue. But by this point, I was becoming numb about the situation. It was really pissing me off that they claimed we're making this about money, when they were the ones doing it. I decided that, nope, I wasn't going to give in and talk to Lucy about how she wants to deal with the situation. She claimed it would be easier to hand over the money, but she really doesn't believe she's entitled to it. Now part of me cheered inside, as it was very rare to see Lucy battle her family. It all came to a head when out of the blue, Lucy's mum paid us a visit. She looked serious and she was on a mission. She began explaining how Deb was feeling, how hurt she was, and how this entire ordeal was ruining all of our relationships. And it's just money. But I'd had enough. My patience had reached its end. It's not happening, I said. She's making this about money. Deb is being greedy about this and she won't be receiving anything. Lucy's mum looked taken aback, but she quickly said, "You know, if you don't share, Deb will likely stop talking to you. She might even go no contact. Are you ready for that?" I nodded. If she wants to be childish, so be it. I've done nothing wrong. I've only stood up for what I believe is fair. Finally, Lucy's mum turned to her. "And you, Lucy?" she asked, staring at her in an intimidating way that I've seen her do to Lucy before. Lucy hesitated for a moment and she looked across at me and then she nodded. "I agree with OP," she said. She looked really sheepish, and I don't mean this to sound stupid, but I was incredibly proud in that moment. I can't tell you what her mum is like. Well, I can, but it would have to be another story sometime. Let me know. Lucy's mum sighed, shaking her head. "Well, that's your choice," she said, standing up. Without another word, she walked out of our house. I'm not sure what she hoped to achieve by doing that, but it just made me feel even more sure of our decision. It's been over 2 weeks since that day. We haven't seen or spoken to Deb or Lucy's mum. I'm not sure we will, if I'm honest. Maybe when the yearly family barbecues start happening and they're not invited. But despite everything, I believe we've made the right choice. In all honesty, I think the separation from her mum will be good for her now. Anyway, thanks for the comments, both confirming my thoughts and challenging them. Gave me some guidance. Holy moly, Bingo, the destroyer of relationships. I know a family that got torn apart by Bingo winnings as well. But do we have any Bingo players in the chat today? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, this one's from a throwaway account from the True Off My Chest subreddit and says, "My husband's open marriage suggestion backfired on him. My husband, Leo, 34 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 7 years, married for 4 of them. We don't have any kids and we don't intend to. 2 years ago, Leo asked me for an open marriage. I was devastated at the time. I couldn't understand why he didn't just want me. I couldn't even comprehend the idea of sharing him either. He gave me the same song and dance a lot of men give their spouses, swore up and down that he loved me. I just wasn't fulfilling his needs. He needed more than what I could give. It was just to spice up our life. It was just sex, etc., etc. I did ask if there was someone else. He said no. To this day, I'm still not sure if I believed him, but at the time, I was angry and hurt and said no. He pestered me to change my mind for a week before giving me an ultimatum. Open marriage or divorce. I chose the open marriage. I just couldn't bear the thought of him leaving me at the time. We have rules. We can't bring any partners home. We have to get tested for STD every 3 months. 1 weekend out of the month must be left free for us time. Any money we spend on or with our partners must come from our personal accounts. I didn't partake in the open marriage myself for the first 3 months. Leo obviously did right away. He seemed to be gone or out late almost all the time. But he always acted so happy and loving towards me, but I felt like I was dying inside. It killed me to think he was sleeping with other women, and I felt so lonely and unattractive and not good enough. I told my sister Katie, 26 female, and a few close friends everything. Katie told me to just play his game and be a part of the open marriage too. If he can sleep around, so could I. I honestly didn't have much confidence in myself at the time. I'm a bit overweight and I've never considered myself conventionally pretty. I was afraid this would just humiliate me further. Katie and my best friend Jessie, 30 female, set up my online dating profiles for me. Got so many matches that it was overwhelming. When I told Leo, he was surprised but told me to do whatever I thought was best. Jessie helped me choose my first date and I actually had a great time. He didn't pressure me for sex and took me out to drinks and dinner. We did have sex eventually, but it was all just casual and we didn't see each other after a couple of months of casual dating. The first guy really made me feel more confident in myself, so I kept on going on dates with men. A lot of them wanted to treat me, so I didn't have to spend much of my own money. Not only that, but some of the men have given me the best sex I've ever had in my life. Almost like the kind of sex you read in romance novels. It's been amazing. I'm currently seeing 2 different men alongside Leo. One, Mark, 38 male, is more of a steady boyfriend I've been with for about 6 months. And the other one, Steven, 25 male, is very casual. mostly just hanging out and sex. They know about my open marriage / other relationships and are fine with it. My husband has not been so lucky. In the beginning, he definitely was. He was always out and about and didn't seem to care, even when I started dating too. But now he just complains a lot and hasn't been going out much. He whines about how he's usually the one spending money. A lot of the women he tries to be with want an emotional connection before sex. He often wants to be with younger women, but they want younger men. He's also been upset that I go out with random guys so often, while he's at home alone all the time. He hasn't asked to close the marriage yet, but I feel he will soon. He keeps saying he misses us and wants to spend more time together. He tried to initiate sex a lot more too. He wants to go on dates and go on vacations and all that stuff more and more. And he gets upset when I tell him I can't because I've already scheduled to do some stuff with my partners, mostly Mark. Honestly, I don't think I love Leo anymore. I care about him, but I just don't love him. I'm not saying I love Mark or Steven, but I honestly feel closer to Mark nowadays than I do Leo. Mark makes me feel comfortable and safe, and I love spending time with him more than my own husband. Steven is funny and sweet and really good at sex. Katie and Jesse have been wanting me to divorce for a year now, but I was afraid of hurting him and thought I still loved him. But I think my love for him died when he asked for this open marriage in the first place. Seeing him get all pissy about it now, just because he's not benefiting from it, is also a turn off for me too. But I don't know if divorce is the best option. I still care about him and I still don't want to hurt him. Maybe if he finally asks to close the marriage, we can talk about it then. In the comments, BentBent12 says, divorce, you're happier without him. He would only want you to close the marriage because he can't get laid, not that he only loves you. Opie says, we've been together for so long that the idea of him not being there feels weird, which sounds stupid since I have 2 other partners. It's not like I'll be lonely, but Leo was a part of my life for so long that for him to not be there just doesn't feel right. But you're probably right. Awesome Possum replies that saying 7 years is not so long, considering you'll possibly live for another 50 years. 8 days later, Opie comes in with her update and says, hi everyone. I got so many comments and messages on my last post, which got deleted for some reason, that I was a bit overwhelmed, especially when a lot of you kept saying the same thing, divorce, divorce, divorce. But the thing is, I think a part of me does still love my husband. I know in my last post that I didn't think I loved him anymore, but I can't just forget about the things that I do love. I love when he sings in the shower. I love when he laughs so hard he snorts. I love when he kisses my forehead when I've had a bad day. I love when he holds my hand when we watch TV together. Leo has done a lot of shitty things, but he really isn't the big arsehole people think. Maybe that was my fault. But even if I do love him, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. I care about him. A part of me still does love him, but you were all right. I should have just divorced him when he gave me that ultimatum in the first place. This past Saturday, we had the big talk. I initiated it, but he didn't seem too surprised. I just told him that I noticed he didn't seem to like me going out with Mark or Steven, and asked if there was a problem. He said there was, but he didn't ask me to close the marriage. He just asked if I still loved him. I said something like, not like I used to. He broke down crying, which made me cry. I guess he had known for a while that I wasn't in love anymore, but he had hoped he could win me back if he funneled all his energy into me. I was honest and I told him that during those first 3 months of our open marriage, I think my love for him died and I just couldn't get it back. I did tell him that I still cared about him and that I did love him, but it was not the same as it was. He asked if I loved Mark or Steven, and I said no. I like being with them and I care about them a lot, but I can't say that I'm in love with either of them. I also finally asked him why he wanted to open the marriage in the first place. A lot of you in the comments said that he already had someone lined up, and you were right. He had someone at work he was interested in and she wanted him too. The open marriage was just to get permission. He honestly never expected me to also get my own partners because of how unconfident I was, but he didn't want me to stop either because he thought nothing would come of it. He didn't really like me seeing other men, but he knew he wouldn't have been fair to tell me no when I gave him permission first. I guess Mark and Steven made him insecure because I was just spending so much time with them on a regular basis. The open marriage was just sex on the side for him. He only did hookups and they never lasted long. He genuinely always just loved only me. But he thought I was falling in love with my partners and he was losing me and wanted to win me back. We cried a lot and talked a lot. We decided to get a divorce. Since the house is in his name, I'm going to move out and live with Katie for a while. He told me I didn't have to and I could stay until the divorce was finalized, but I just can't. It's too hard to even look at him sometimes. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I thought I would be relieved or sad, but I'm just tired. I wish I could have been like you all wanted me to be, clapping back or being sarcastic and snarky or rubbing it in his face. But I don't feel like I've won anything. I just feel lost. Princess Bella says, unfortunately, this is what happens when opening the marriage is not mutual. But you two are handling it as adults, and I hope that both of you find the happiness that you deserve, just not with each other. There's a situation where no one wins. Thanks for the update. Succubus says, this is an old tale and people keep falling for that. I was like, look at all these stories on Reddit. They all have the same ending, but people always trade 80% for 20% that they don't have. From Mars says, can confirm. The 80% I get out of my relationship is great. The 20% I want that I don't get certainly has an effect on me and how I conduct myself in the relationship. That being said, I wouldn't throw away the 80% to get 20% from somewhere else, as it'd be a net loss at the end of the day. OP created another post that was titled, I wish it was easy to hate my husband. And it came 5 days later. It said, our marriage is over. We both talked about reconciling, but I just can't do it. I can't love him like I used to. I've officially moved out and currently living with my sister. I wish I could hate him for everything, but I don't. I'm angry and sad and frustrated and devastated, but I don't hate him. I think everyone wants him to be the villain, but he's not clever enough for that. My husband was always short-sighted. He really never thought about long-term of things. His focus was always then and now, not whatever came later, because that was for later him to worry about. Now we're at the later, and it's awful. I wish I could blame him for everything, but he didn't slowly ruin or chip away at my self-esteem. He didn't break me down and make me hate myself. He didn't flaunt his success in my face. He didn't make me feel inferior. I came to him that way. He took advantage, but he was never hateful. Maybe I should have let him know during the open marriage how unhappy I was. I tried to hide it from him. He would ask me and I still lied. If I'd been honest, maybe we could have closed the marriage. Maybe we could have just gotten divorced at the beginning. Maybe I should have negotiated better rules. I have so many maybes and so much blame for myself. If I'd been more confident back then, maybe this open marriage never would have happened. But I blame him too. I hate that he let that woman come between us. I hate that he even entertained her flirtations and had discussions with us. I hate he thought this was a solution and that I agreed because I couldn't bear the thought of losing him. But I don't hate him. I want to, but I can't. I know it'll get easier, but everything is so hard now. I don't know what to do and I feel like I'm crazy. Hope I can feel like myself again soon. And the top comment on that one said, honey, he took your marriage hostage in order to get his dick wet whenever he wanted. Fully believing that you would sit at home as a quiet little housefrau and not be unhappy about what he was doing. He was selfish on a galactic scale, and he was the one at fault for this. A partner who actually cared about coming to terms with things would not have held a gun to your marriage's head and said, either other women suck my dick or the marriage gets it. There's no fixing that kind of selfish, and there's no way a marriage can survive it. He prioritized his cock, and when he realized that was a bad call, it was already way too late. Don't blame yourself for any of this, because all you did was what he asked for. And really, I couldn't see that ending any other way. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.